Good morning, everybody. My name is Stephan Hocks. I'm a lawyer coming from Frankfurt, and I'm specialized in asylum law. It's usual amongst asylum lawyers to specialize in particular countries of origin, so that in my case, my clients come from Eritrea, Ethiopia, and Afghanistan. So the reason is that a lawyer can have a close inspection to the circumstances in such countries where the clients come from. Apart from that, I'm teaching law, asylum law at the University of Gießen. We have there a training program for students. Students may, under our supervision, give advice to asylum seekers in Gießen, which is a very new development in Germany, that we have such law clinics. You can read it there, Refugee Law Clinic Gießen. That means that we have this training program for students who are interested in giving advice and helping asylum seekers and refugees in Gießen. Yeah, coming to our topic today, legal issues related to being in Germany as a threatened scholar. I would like to address this topic as follows. Legal issues. We have our clients are threatened scholars. You see the colors there. Threatened is red and scholars is green. I would like to indicate something by that. You will see what I mean later. Threatened scholars being in Germany. Threatened scholars being in Germany leads to one question, or one initial question. That is the question, how do they come to Germany? As we have a very strict visa regime. So we have to distinguish between those people, those scholars who are already residing in Germany, and those who are not residing in Germany, who are outside of Europe and are intending to come. The visa procedure, the visa regime is very strict. That is true for all European countries. We have a visa regime that has two implications. First is, nobody without a visa can come to Germany, except with the exception of people, of course, who are exempted. Those people from the United States, Japan, Korea, New Zealand, Australia, and some other states. They can come to Germany without any visa. But apart from those, the vast majority of people are falling under the visa regime. So that those scholars need a visa when they want to come to Germany. And a second implication of the visa regime is, that is also very important, is once you have a visa and have arrived to Germany, you stick to that what your visa was telling about the purpose of your entry. For instance, somebody comes as a tourist, he has or she has very little chances to shift over to another kind of residence. Let's say for a resident as a scholar, as a student, or as a worker. So the visa has two implications. One is you need a visa to come, and secondly, you need the correct visa to carry through the purpose you wanted to. So once you decide to come as a scholar or as a student or as a researcher, you need the visa requested. So now coming to what I call two ways to a resident permit. I see two ways to come to a residence permit as a threatened scholar. And now you see the difference between the two colors, threatened in red and scholars in green. Both terms lead to a specific bundle of reasons to come and to stay. Let us begin by the red one. The red one is the asylum law. You are threatened. That means you seek for protection, for shelter. And out of this come some rights to stay. So the right to remain due to political or religious or gender-related persecution. or persecution for sexual orientation. All these kinds of persecution, once you can establish that before the federal office, which is responsible for the acknowledgement of such refugees, once you can establish that, you have and gain the right to stay. So for a threatened scholar, this might be one way to come as a refugee under the refugee law. We have, apart from this persecution, we have the right to stay for people who is threatening torture or the risk of theirs caused by an internal conflict. So that is something what is helping people in Afghanistan, for instance. We understand that there is an internal conflict, and that is bringing the risk of death for the people who live in particular areas of Afghanistan. And the other side, as I mentioned, is the green one. The green one is delivers a bundle of reasons for people who come to Germany because they are qualified, because they want to study here, because they want to do research in Germany, or want to work as professionals. So this bundle of reasons is totally independent on the other side, on the red, or on the left side, on the red side, so as to say, and has specific implications which I will tell you now. So, but both ways can or may lead to the right to remain in Germany. So let us now go deeper into that. The way as a refugee. So we now stress on the red side, on the threatened scholar. The refugee status is very comfortable for those who gain the status. That is simply to explain people who leave their countries because they are persecuted there or cannot live there anymore because of death, risk, and danger. For these people, we have to arrange a second life, a new life in Germany or in other countries where they seek shelter. So the refugee status is including a passport for those people. They gain a refugee travel document. They gain the right to get to access to benefit systems. To all, they have the same status as Germans in terms of working, receiving social benefits, and free movement and so on. The refugee status is mostly defined in the Geneva Convention and in European law and in the German laws. And we have there a limited number of reasons. The most important reasons which lead to a recognition are the political persecution, the religious persecution, and gender-related persecution, and the persecution in connection with a sexual orientation. For instance, the political persecution is not needed to explain deeper now, but religious persecution could mean also that somebody is persecuted because he changes his or her religion, or decides to have no religion, to cut all connections to any religion. This is also being seen as a reason for persecution if some person in this situation is being persecuted for that. Sexual orientation is, of course, one important reason that depends on the country where people are coming from. For instance, from Jamaica or from Iran or Sudan, where people are persecuted because of being homosexual, to live a life as a homosexual-oriented person. Apart from that, we have the subsidiary protection, which is an invention by the European Union. Subsidiary protection means that persons seek protection who are not individually persecuted as the refugees under the Geneva Convention, but who are confronting with danger and the risk of death in their home countries, So mostly either by torture or by internal conflicts. As I said, Afghanistan is one example. Syria is one important example nowadays. So many people from, or at least all the people from Syria in the moment receive this status as subsidiary protected person. If not, there is a case of individual persecution for political reasons, for instance. So this is the way, or that is the result of such a application as a refugee. But the problem is, and that is the really most important thing in this connection, is we have no visa regime for those people. So if you are a refugee, if you stay somewhere in Lebanon or in Turkey and decide to come to Germany because you are persecuted in your home country, there is no legal way to come to Germany because there is no visa. Last year we had a decision by the European Court of Justice which said there is no right to a person or for a person to get a visa because they are persecuted. That is a very important thing, and you know that from the media that the people who are coming as refugees use the way as illegal migrants. The second thing is all the travel way you come here decides on the asylum country. So if you're coming through Italy, you may face your asylum procedure in Italy rather than in Germany because of the so-called Dublin regulation, which is a European regulation that decides on the responsible country in Europe, which is responsible for the asylum procedure for an applicant. So people who are coming by having a visa from France, for instance, and apply in Germany, they have to face their asylum procedure in France, according to the Dublin regulation. So this is one burden. And the third burden is you have to convince the Federal Office for Migration and Refugees, the so-called Bundesamt für Migration und Flüchtlinge, to convince or to establish, at least to establish, good reasons for the assumption that you are being persecuted in your home country. And this Bundesamt für Migration is carrying through an asylum procedure, and the heart of this asylum procedure is the examination of the case in the course of an interview that they carry through with the applicant. So this is the situation as for people who are coming as refugees to Germany and want now maybe do research, do study, do work as professionals. And now the question arises, are they allowed to do that during an asylum procedure? And the answer is yes. Asylum seekers may do research. They may study. They may enroll to university. They may work. There are no limitations of free movement within Germany, without the exception, of course, that they can't leave the country. But there is no travel to other states, but they can, for instance, study in Berlin and live in Magdeburg and change, travel, or commute every day, if that is possible for them. They have access to social benefits. The downsides of this way is, of course, there is no free choice of residence, so you can't explain that you want to live in a particular city in Germany, but once you establish that there are good reasons for that, even for this case, there are exemptions. No travel within EU, and this, what I'm now explaining you about the free work, free research, free study of asylum seekers is not true for those people who come from so-called safe countries. And safe countries under the German asylum law are Ghana and Senegal and the Western Balkans. So, for instance, Serbia, Albania. If somebody comes from this country, he or she is not allowed to work or to study. Yeah, this is the situation if you come as an asylum seeker and want to do research. But the main problem is, as I mentioned, there is no visa regime for those people. If those people want to come to Germany, they have to choose the illegal way. I noticed from my clients, some choose the way of family reunion visa or mostly tourist visa. But once you apply for a tourist visa in a third country outside Europe, you have to face that the visa procedure is carried through by the embassy, the German embassy, and they go very deeply into the case and look for the reasons of, is there any risk that the people who is the applicant is returning home or not, or staying in Germany. So it might be difficult to get such visa. The way via professional qualification, which is the other way. Now we focus on the green side, the scholars. So we have people outside who are in a way qualified and want to continue their work or research in Germany because they are threatened, but in our home country or in a third country, but they don't go the way as an asylum seeker, they now go the way as a professional under the German law for those people. And of course, the advantage is we have a visa regime for those people. Visa are provided and mandatory. So you may get a visa and you have to get this visa. And now you have a bundle of reasons why you can come. Let us look at that. Students who are admitted to German universities. Paragraph 16, German Residence Act. That is a very important point. People who have a qualification outside of Europe and want to come to Germany, they contact the Uni Assist Central in Germany and send in all the documents they have and may get a place somewhere and enroll to a university. And once they are enrolled and admitted to the university, they have a right to get the residence permit. This is pretty new, that those people have a right. That is the result of a new directive of the European Union, introduced in 2017. So students coming to Germany who are admitted by university have a right. The immigration officers have no way to deny the residence permit. Second point, researchers who are admitted to research institutions. Paragraph 20 of the Residence Act. The same model. People from outside, researchers, apply and get into contact to a research institution in Germany that has to be a listed institution, which is listed with the Bundesamt für Migration. This is the same federal office that is carrying through the asylum procedures. This office has a list of acknowledged institutions, and if you have this admission and the research institution is taking the researcher in question, then you have also the right to get a residence permit. You get a visa, and you get once you have arrived in Germany, you get this residence permit. So there are other ways, maybe interesting for you, the professionals. For instance, the most important point is the blue card, which is embracing all people who are qualified in their home country, who have a university degree, who have a job offer in Germany that allows you to earn more than, let's say, 46,000 euro per year. Then you are eligible to the blue card. There is no restriction on what you work. That could be university work as a university professor, as well as a manager of a company, or as a medical doctor, and so on and so on. Those blue card is a very important way to come to Germany for a very important point for migration. And apart from that, there are other scenarios under which you can work. These are the numbers, paragraph 18 and 19, which is helpful for those people who don't have this kind of qualification or don't meet the threshold of 46,000 euro per year. So these are the ways to come legally to Germany, and that is an offer to people who come as a threatened scholar with a focus on scholar because of their qualification and research The conditions and downsides of this way is, or are, entry with a visa required. So you have to apply for a visa before you come. And secondly, it has to be the correct visa. So if you come as a tourist and then you want to shift over to a research activity, it's difficult but not impossible. But you have to get a visa. An illegal entry is, of course, negative. So it will exclude you from the green side. So anybody who is coming illegally has many, many difficulties, and from my experience, will not meet the green side of these resident permits, because illegal entry is in this way prohibited, and there are sanctions against that. The further conditions are a possession of a passport, which is an important thing. So you have to have a passport if you want to come via a visa. There are exemptions, of course. In some cases, the German authorities can furnish you with a German passport for aliens, but also this is very difficult. It is under specific conditions only possible. Then you have to get the admission, of course. You have to be admitted either by the university or by the research institution. You have to secure your livelihood, which is another important point. An asylum seeker doesn't have to meet this point, because asylum seekers are in Germany because they can't return, and if they don't work, we have to care for them. That is clear. Then the last point, and important point, is the dependency on the resident purpose. So once a person who is coming as a student or as a researcher fails to study, or don't meet the qualification, they don't get the degrees, or is in a way out of the program because he or she does not meet the qualifications, the needed points there, then your residence permit ends and ceases. So this is the negative side of that. You are dependent on what the on the purpose you are coming, or you have come for. Yeah, you have to complete the university studies. If you prematurely end that, you may lose your right to stay. But what you, of course, can do then is you may change from the student status or the researcher status to a refugee status. This is possible, and that is our last slide. Changing the ways, so from one to the other. If you, on the red side again, asylum procedure, and the green side, coming as a student or researcher or professional under the German Residence Act, then, of course, you can, once you have, for instance, your residence permit has expired because you could not finalize your studies, or the research program is over, the time of the requested time for the prospective time for the research project is over, and you want to stay. People who are here under number 20 have the right to seek for a job for 9 months. But if they don't find a job within the 9 months, they may shift over to the asylum procedure, and then they have to explain to the federal office that they are persecuted in their home country. And this is a possible way. You can change from the green side to the red side. What is not possible is to change from an asylum procedure in a situation where you have not been acknowledged. For people who are still in the asylum procedure, they have no way to get over to the status as a student under 16 or a researcher under 20, because there is a strict limitation in the law. The law does not want that people who are coming as asylum seekers simply shift over to the residence permit as a student, and so on and so on. But once you are recognized, of course, if that is what I said in the beginning, if you are recognized as a refugee and you get this refugee status, of course, then you can do what you want, because that is part of the right you have under the Geneva Convention to work, to do research, to marry, to buy houses, to live in Germany, and all that is coming because you are a refugee. And then you, of course, can, but you don't need the 16 anymore because you have a refugee status, and this is much better than the limited residence permit that you have as a student or a researcher. So this is only important for those people who are still stuck into the asylum procedure. They can't shift from the asylum procedure to the green side. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that is what I just wanted to address this morning. I think we have time for a couple of questions, and I'm very pleased to give the answers if possible. Yeah. Do you want to have a microphone? There is one.
So thank you very much for this interesting information. Actually, two different questions. Different questions. The first one about moving from 20 paragraph to 18 paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible between them or not?
The way to
So
change from 20 to 18.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is the first question. The second question, you mentioned that you have possibility to move from green side to red side,
Mm-hmm.
but not, let's suppose if you get a job after that, you can return to the green side again or not?
So the question is, you move from the green side to the red side and then?
Return again to...
Return. To return then.
Yeah.
The return is not possible. Okay, beginning by the second question. Once you are in an asylum procedure, you have the whole benefit of, let's explain it by that. A person who has no legal status, once this person is maybe facing the deportation, maybe the deportation is scheduled for next Monday, and you apply for asylum, in this moment, you have the full right to stay in Germany until your case is closed. The right, what is the outcome of an asylum application is that you gain a temporary right to stay. And the backside of that is that all other chances to move into other ways of residence are excluded for you. Therefore, I can tell you that the way back is very, very difficult, if not impossible. So that is the sanction of the law. Once a person decides to go the red way, the asylum way, this very person has no chance to return because it is he benefits from the asylum law in this moment, but shall have no right to return to the regular forms of migration. And the first question was, can you come from 20 to 18? I don't see any problems, why not? Yeah.
Good morning. I just have a question about the blue card regime, which has been European Union system for many years now. How successful has that been in Germany?
Oh, Germany is the blue card nation. We have, I was at a conference this year, and that told me somebody in the area of Frankfurt, we have so many blue cards as in the whole state of Belgium. Yeah? So it's a very success story. Not in the beginning. In the beginning, the people were very reluctant and didn't take that. But now the blue card is the most important thing for migration, and this is politically, of course, important to get qualified persons to Germany. So the immigration authorities cooperate very well.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for your very interesting introduction. We are establishing in the Institute for German Foreign Relations, the IFA, a program similar to Scholars at Risk, which will focus on artists and other people working in the cultural industries. So my question is, how could an artist who might work independently without any organization stay here in the green area? Is this possible?
Yeah, an artist. So it depends. The first question is, how did he or she come? Was she illegally coming in the first place? Is that the case? Or what is her status now? So whenever we talk about the perspective of one person, we have to know about the situation, the current situation, as to in order to tell what is possible. So I need this. What is the situation right now for this person?
Unfortunately, I don't have the microphone anymore.
Yeah.
So he is here with a legal entry visa.
Okay, as a tourist or as a worker?
As a worker, for example.
As a worker, yeah.
After 2 years, this work finishes and he has to leave, or is it possible with his skills as being an artist,
Yeah.
maybe to stay in some circumstances?
Okay, if somebody has a visa under 18, for instance, 18 is the visa or the residence permit for people who work, then you can extend that once you have the jobs, once you have still the job, or you gain, or if you have another job. You have even the right for 6 months to seek for a new job under 18C or so. There's a particular provision that allows people to seek for a job if they are jobless. And for artists, of course it's difficult because the market, the labor market for artists is probably difficult. But if those person finds a job, she or he is eligible to 18, to a continuation. Yeah? Okay. Oh, many questions. So, yeah?
Yeah. Thank you for the enlightening presentation. My question is about the possibility of movement within other EU countries. For instance, how transferable are these statuses among other EU countries?
Okay. Let us look at this slide. Okay, the question was, is there a free movement within Europe? Of course, the green side is, there's not much further to explain about that, because people who are a residence permit in Germany are automatically eligible to travel around Europe in the Schengen area. That is not true for Great Britain. But upon the introduction of the directive I mentioned last year, we have certain possibilities for students and for researchers to shift over to another European country for a limited time without greater administrative problems. Yeah, this is possible so that they continue their studies or they continue their research in another European country, and vice versa. People come from France, also in a third country's member who is studying or working in France comes to Berlin to continue for a stage or part of her or his project. This is possible. As an asylum seeker, of course, that is not possible, because the idea of giving shelter is that a person may be here, but we don't think that this person is coming and going all the time. This is not the idea of giving shelter. And therefore, people who come as an asylum seeker are not eligible to travel around Europe, which has, of course, some exceptions. If you can establish a very, very good reason, then you can or you may travel. For instance, you have a child that is going to school, and the school is going for a travel to Italy to visit Rome, then you may get for this child an exemption, and this child can, of course, travel to Rome with the class members. Yeah? Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Just profiting from the mic being closed. Thank you very much for the presentation and the answer to the questions so far. We're just wondering, because I have a lot of colleagues who are in this position with the residence permits almost being expired. I mean, they're about to expire, some have already expired. And then their fellowship is about to end as well, and they have already problems with their passport, either their green passport having been confiscated, or the other passport, the normal passport, also expiring in terms of visa procedures. We're just wondering whether there could be an interim solution within the federal state, maybe, if not on national terms, with the university, maybe with the university rector or the executive committee or whatsoever, so that this researcher stays in Article 20, stays within the confines of Article 20 and does not really have to seek asylum procedures.
Okay. So we have, if you say, so the question was if somebody loses his or her passport or the passport is confiscated, this is one thing you have clearly to distinguish from the residence permit. There are two different things. Residence permit is one thing and the passport is another thing. The passport is all the time the condition for getting a residence permit. But let's say we have a researcher who is from another country and his passport is, let's say, from Turkey, and his or her passport is confiscated or expires, and there is no chance to get into touch with the consulate to get an extension of this passport. I think this could have many reasons. One reason could be political reasons, but I have many clients who just don't want to do the military service, and they know they cannot get an extension of their passport if they don't go to their home country to serve. So what do they? They can tell this problem to the immigration officers and ask for a substitute. There is a substitution at this, which is called a passport for aliens. If you are in the situation that that is not in a way your fault, that you don't get your passport, then you have the right to get this kind of a substitution. But immigration officers are very reluctant in issuing such papers, but it is possible. The other way is that you just stay into stuck into the process of extension. You go to the offices, tell them you don't have a passport. Authorities will give you thresholds and tell you that you have to deliver the passport. You will say it's not possible, and then they postpone that from one day to the other. That is my experience. If they are cooperating, but yeah.
So maybe one last question, please.
Sorry?
We should need to move on to the next session, so maybe this would be the last question then.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure that if you have more questions, Dr. Hocks will be available. So.
I want to ask, is there any branch in PSI initiative about giving advice or coordinate this kind of legal issues? Because some international offices giving some helps to us, but some of them sending Auslander Bureau, I cannot do anything. They are saying, I think there should be a desk for coordinating this, solving these problems, and maybe it is effective calling rectors from Humboldt Foundation. It can be also solve many problems about this.
Yeah, that is the problem of our federal system in Germany. We have not only 16 states, we have, apart from that, many regional immigration offices, and they carry through, they follow all the same directive and the laws, but the interpretation is different. So there is no idea, I can't give you a general answer to that, but I would advise to contact either a lawyer or, and this is something I would like to point out, that is what I said in the beginning, the refugee law clinics, which are now in more than 35 cities in Germany dealing with immigration law, they are somebody, or it's an institution that you could ask for help, because you find they're very motivated students who are wanting to help you. Yeah, I think we have to close.
So thank you, Dr. Hocks.
Right?
I think we will need to move on to the next session.
Thank you.